cloud. Does anybody see that little thing? I think, are we recording? This is really important. I have my screen so big.
Yes, it's recording.
All right, because we are going to change this over. We have our guest speaker, Kristin. Oh, let's go back. Yes. So look at all these questions, Kristin. So before I go back to speaker view, I just want to show you what's been submitted by a bunch of you. So the first one, sorry, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint because I want to go back to do this in order. So let me, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
From current slide, sorry. Anybody can do this business. Anyway, it was really funny. So many people had their opinions about what they wanted Kristin to speak. Kristin knows all this, but oh, can you guys mute yourself? But I just want you to know exactly what was already submitted and what Kristin is going to be speaking on. So the first one that made me laugh was, if she's doing so many parties at once, how much time does it take for her to follow up and respond to all the comments on those parties? When does she do it? Does she take notes, what certain people say so she can talk to them? Or does she just have a great memory? What's her system for doing all this during the party? Who to contact about what? Does she try to friend everyone or have them respond, messaging her so she can message them? So anyway, I really related to that question. But then here is like the big list that we're going to be going through. How many shows do you hold a week? Do you run them 1 hour multi-day? What's your system? And as you can see, this is a whole list. So I am going to stop sharing. And I want to make sure, are we on speaker view? Do you guys all see beautiful Kristin there? Yes? And everybody can hear? I am just going to turn it over to you, Kristin, if you want to do a little short hello and introduction. And anyone want to start with that bucket of lists?
Yes. So I will try and go as fast as I can to get through all the things I can because there's a lot on the list. And I do talk really fast, so I'm really glad it's being recorded. So if you don't catch all I say, you can watch the recording again. So a little bit about me, I started Pampered Chef about 4 years ago, and I started when I was working full-time. My daughter was 1 at the time, and then 2.5 years into my business, I quit my full-time job and had my second baby, my son, and now I'm just doing Pampered Chef, making way more money than I ever thought or dreamed was possible. So it's pretty exciting, and our team is primarily virtual. So I do cooking shows because I want to have a pulse on that. I want to be able to train people on that. But my passion is definitely the virtual world for sure. Could we get everyone muted by chance? It sounds like there's someone driving and there's a little bit of background noise. So just go ahead and mute yourself if you're not already muted. That would be awesome. So I want to talk about recruiting first, and I'll get to the questions at the end. There were kind of the main questions I think stemmed from recruiting, what to do with onboarding new consultants, how to get them encouraged for the fast track program, and then the laundry list of questions. So how many of you guys are cooking, mostly cooking show consultants? Like raise a hand. Like, is that your bread and butter, like what you mostly do? Okay, and then how many are virtual? And that's your bread and butter, and that's mostly what you do. Okay, so what I say to that is, if you are mostly a cooking show consultant, like everything that you do to recruit at your shows can be exactly converted to the virtual world. So I don't want you to think that just because I'm doing cooking shows a certain way, like I need to have a different system or a different thing for recruiting at virtual parties, because you can do it very similarly. So what I want to do is break it into 2 pieces with recruiting, specifically at virtual parties. So that you have the host that you are potentially working with to recruit, and then you have guests at the show that you're working with to recruit, just like a cooking show. So when you're working with your host, like you want to be asking your host 5 times. It's the exact same as a cooking show. So you want to plant the seed early and often, and you want to give compliments on what is going well with their show, all the way leading throughout the party and up to the end. So I feel like one of our goals is to not just establish a relationship with the host, but also to help them have a great experience. And when they have a great experience, they're going to be way more likely to join your team. So what are things that you can do to help them have a good experience? Not right now, but okay, in a little bit. So my son is watching TV at the moment to distract him. So he might interrupt the call here a few times. So how can you show them that they're having a great experience? By giving them compliments all along the way. What are they doing well? And you want that to build that up so that when you ask a 3rd time or a 4th time, they are at this point where they have had a great experience, they're excited, and they're more likely to say yes. So just real quick and brief. So I always ask a week before the party. It's the first time I ask. It's on my host coaching phone call for my virtual hosts. And I say, the great thing about hosting is you can get a $25 or $50 coupon off any of our starter kits. Have you ever thought about doing something like Pampered Chef before? That's time number 1. Time number 2 is when I'm getting ready to set up the party. I'm so excited I'm setting up your party. I just want to double check before I set things up. Are you sure you don't want, turn this into your kickoff party? You could be earning the commission on it and so forth. I am on direct ship, so I cannot convert parties to launch parties because once the sales are in, like they're stuck and they're in. So I do offer that. And then in the middle of the party, I offer a compliment, whatever they're doing well. If they suck, I don't make something up, but I will try and find something, at least one thing I can compliment on. And then I'll be like, oh my gosh, you're doing such a great job with XYZ. Are you sure you haven't thought much more about, doing something like Pampered Chef, because I feel like you'd be so great at it. Or, oh my gosh, your party is so off the hook. People are so excited. I feel like they would totally support you in this. Like, are you sure, you haven't thought much more about it? And then at the end of the party, before they enter their host rewards, I will say something like, oh my gosh, you just earned the $25 kit coupon or the $50 kit coupon. This is so exciting. Or if they don't have the kit coupon, I work my fanny off to get them bookings. Oh my gosh, you have, 2 bookings from this or 1 booking from this. Would you like to take advantage of that? Or have you seen what all comes in the kits? Or I'd be happy to give you these bookings to help you get started. What do you think? So I'm always ending with a question. And then if they still say no, then before I close the party, they usually put their host order in. Hey, before I close things up, I just want to make sure that you certainly don't want to use this $50 kit coupon that's on the table available for you. Sometimes I'll ask even after the party is finished when I get an additional booking or 2, because I usually get 1 or 2 more bookings after the party's closed when I'm going through and doing follow-up. And so when I get an additional booking, I'll throw it out there again. Oh my gosh, I just got another booking from your party. Are you sure you don't want to take these bookings to help you get started? And sometimes I will have people sign up even after the party when I go back and talking about the extra bookings that they can get. So that's the host. And talking about guests, I always aim to have 2 solid recruit leads of guests from the party. So how do I find these people? Well, to begin with, you have to make sure that you are creating desire in your party. So I want you to be thinking, what are you doing right now that's creating desire for the business opportunity in your parties? So one thing that I think is really, really important is that you are sharing your story. This is something we probably have all heard and we should hopefully be using. And so how you share your story is, like, if you're a cooking show, you're going to talk about your story, just take that and put it in a post and put a pretty picture with it, right? Or you can make a video and put that in your virtual party. So I've done both. I just switch it up, whether it's me on a 1.5 minute video real fast, pop it into my virtuals, or I will make a post about it with some photos to kind of represent the things. So your story has to be compelling though. Like, it needs to be passionate and exciting, because that's like the heart of the matter, and they're going to relate to you through a really strong story. So why did you sign up? What are you looking forward to Pampered Chef doing for your business or for your family, or what has Paper Chef done for you. Like, you have to list compelling things that truly have made a difference for you and your family. And that might even be something that you could coach with your director on, or like your director could help you dig deep. If you have been a director for a while and you're like struggling with what's exciting you at the moment, like, then that's probably coming through on your story in your party. So work through that, so that you can be passionate about it. And then I always say, like, that's the heart of the matter. And then you want to kind of get to the head of the matter too. And a lot of times that's money. And so I like to play a game that's like the paycheck game, although it's commission checks because we don't get paychecks. So commission check game, where if you've seen this done at cooking shows, there are envelopes, it's money in the envelope. They pull it out and they look at the check and they see how much the money is. And so I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but I do that in my cooking shows. I've converted that and I do it at my virtual parties as well. So basically, guess how much is in this envelope. This envelope represents a consultant. I like this game because it shows we don't just get paid in spatulas, we get actual money. So, guess how much you think is in this envelope. Yeah.
Kristin, if you want to screen share it all, like to show them an example of what you're talking about, that's
yeah, I totally can on some parts for sure. Okay. So that is super helpful to basically show the income potential, because if they see the income potential, their interest is going to be piqued and they're going to be intrigued. And a lot of people have a really hard time showing like their check, but I think that it is very, very powerful. So like, this is an example of what I'm talking about. So I'll do this post and then they guess the commission check. So I've had people tell me that when they saw my commission check in a party, like that was it for them. Like, they decided they want to sign up. And so people that are holding back from playing an interactive game like this because they're afraid of what people might think, like, you're missing out on opportunity, because this is very powerful. And if you don't have a check that you like or think would be really compelling, do your check for one and then do a round two and do Marie's check for the other one. Like, when people see the difference, here's what you can do when you're working your business this way, here's what you can do when you're working your business this way, like, that is very compelling. Who sees one of Marie's checks and is like, I don't know if Marie shares a check, but if she did, oh my gosh, like, I want to make that kind of money. Like, you can make that kind of money with Paper Chef. Like, that's the kind of stuff that people that start to happen. So you create that desire in the party through the head and the heart. The head's the money, the heart's your story. And then you give them an opportunity to ask questions. So just like cooking show, you probably have time for questions after you've talked about these things or whatever you do for that. And then they ask questions. And now you're getting a sense of, okay, who are potential recruit leads? Like, who's asking good questions and who seems to be intrigued. And so that's when you definitely reach out to them and message them. So I do a Q&A post. And so it's really important to do this, because now you know, like, who is asking questions about the business, because you've created this desire. And so they're asking questions about it. And it's just like, ask me any question about the business for 10 bonus raffle tickets. And then they ask questions. I answer the questions in the party, and then I private message them like the next day. And I'll say something like, hey, you had some great questions about the business in Susie's Paper Chef party. Have you ever thought about doing something like Paper Chef before? And then that starts the conversation. I also reach out to rock stars. And so anyone who has commented on every post, maybe they've said they love all the products, maybe they're sharing recipes, they're like really into it. Just like at a cooking show, right? You find those rock stars who are selling the products for you. Same thing in the virtual. You reach out to them, private message. Oh my gosh, you're such a party rock star. I can tell you love the products, or you love to cook, or thank you for being so engaging. It was so awesome to have you in the party. You would be great at this. Have you ever thought about doing something like Paper Chef before? Now, I will tell you, if you are intentional about doing these things, there's no reason why you cannot have a recruit, like one recruit for every 4 parties. Like, they are out there, right? Every party you go to do, this is an old saying, but like, the recruit is there, but did the recruiter show up? And so that's what I want you guys to be thinking. Like, are you being intentional about asking the host 5 times, asking rock stars, asking Q&A folks? Because when you do all those things, you're going to have recruiting conversations and you're going to be signing more people than you might normally have. But are we being intentional and focused on the things that we're doing and those activities that we should be doing every single week with every single party? So that is like really fast virtual recruiting 101. And obviously there's other things that factor into it, like building relationship and having important, posts in your party that like share more about you. Just like I do a hobby post where I talk about my hobbies, a picture of my family, because you want to create a know, like, and trust factor in your parties, right? You want them to get to know you. You want them to like you, and you want them to trust you. And so you're developing that through what you're sharing in your parties and through the one-on-one conversation you're having with them, through like replying to their comments and things. And so when they know, like, and trust you, they're more likely to buy from you, to book with you, and to join your team. So ask yourself, how are you creating that know, like, and trust factor in your parties to build that relationship and have them kind of join your community and get a sense of who you are? So that is super important. So that's, like I said, virtual recruiting 101, like mega fast. But I also want to just share that I think sometimes maybe you are finding the recruit leads, but they're maybe not joining. Like, how many of you guys feel like you are having the conversations, but maybe they're sitting on the fence too long or whatever? So yeah, so if that's the case, then your skill that you need to refine is the conversation. So you have the conversation with a recruit lead, and this is all about getting to know them and asking really great questions. So I always say the party is your opportunity to talk about yourself. The one-on-one conversation is all about them. So rarely ever will I talk about myself in a one-on-one conversation with a recruit lead. And I think this is really important because they don't want to hear your story at that point. They want to know, how can it work for me? How can I be successful? And so it's all about them. So when you're having this one-on-one conversation, it's asking questions like, what excites or intrigues you about the idea of potentially doing Pampered Chef? What would you do with the extra income you could make from this? If you had extra $500 a month, what would you do with it? If you had more than that, like, dream big, like, what would you do for your family? What are your goals? And so other questions are things like, what concerns or hesitations do you have about the idea of doing Pampered Chef? What questions do you have? Would your spouse be supportive of you doing this? Like, I ask so many questions because those first 2 questions, what excites you? What would you spend the money on? When you ask those, they are starting to convince themselves why it would be a good idea. And they are verbalizing that. You're asking those targeted questions. Now they can start to see what it could do for them. And then you have to get to the objections. What are the issues? And so you're going to get objection, and then you have to overcome all of those. So if it's time, okay, you overcome the time objection. What's next? Maybe the husband wouldn't be supportive, which is, some people stray away from asking the question, would your husband be supportive? I think it's actually a good question because I'm asking for the objection because I want to tackle it. So, so pulling those objections out. And then once you've kind of gone through that conversation, you've asked the questions, you've overcome the objections, now comes the ask to get them to sign up. And if you have people that are sitting on the fence, it's because maybe your close is not strong enough. And so the close for me is usually like, do you have any other questions, or are you ready to go ahead and order your kit today? That's one close I use often. Or another close I will often use is, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I have an idea. What if you went ahead and got a starter kit? We could run a party for you next week, and you could legitimately have your very first commission check on June 7th. That is powerful because then they're like, oh, I could have my first check on June 7th. Yeah, like, put concrete stuff on the table for them. Like, you could have a check on the 7th. Like, let's do this. Like, what do you think? So Those are two really good closes I like to use. Now, if you are not signing people, either you don't have a strong close or they still have objections that you have not addressed. So if at that point you put that close out there and they're like, oh, well, I just need to think about it, right? Like, it's like, oh, there's still an objection in there that you have not told me about. So that's then our job to go and ask more questions. And I would say something like, I totally get that. What do you feel is, you still kind of are hesitant about? Or if you just really want to be blunt, what do you feel like you need to think about? But it's really about how you ask a soft question, but like, what are you still concerned about? Or what hesitation do you have? Because there's still something that's hanging there and you have to like cut that free. So getting down to that, you never want to leave the conversation with, would they say, okay, I'm going to think about it. And then you're like, okay, I'll check back with you. There's an objection. You need to keep going in there. So that's what I would encourage you, is just keep working that through questions and overcoming. It takes time. Like, that's a skill that you can develop, but with practice and trainings like these and things, you can get better at that. So let's talk about what to do with onboarding new consultants. So I've kind of morphed how I've onboarded these past few months, but I'll kind of give you like what I have been doing that's been going really well, because I'm kind of testing a few new things. But originally I get the consultant on the phone within the first 48 hours at the latest. And I'm talking about their why. I'm asking questions of what their goals are, like working with them to kind of set some goals, like how much money they want to make, how many shows they might want to do. And then we talk about the new consultant rewards on that first call, because I got to dangle the carrots. And then we talk about getting bookings. So that's call number 1. And then I challenge them to book 6 parties in their first month with that first phone call. And then I do another phone call 2 days later. And so I give them 2 days to go get 6 bookings. When they do get those 6 bookings, then I give them a prize. I mail them prizes that they can use as giveaways in their first virtual parties. So the second phone call then is 2 days later. In a little bit, okay? In a little bit. Why don't you go get a snack? Okay? So the second phone call is all about host coaching. 1 second. I'm going to go someone talk amongst yourself. I'm going to go put a different show on for my son. He's like losing it. 1 second.
Well, that is real, isn't it? The beauty of the business is that you get to work from home and your family gets to come first. So what do you guys think so far? I've muted everybody, so you'd have to unmute yourself to make a comment. Anybody learned something so far? There's got to be one takeaway already.
Oh, I'm learning lots of things.
I'm definitely knowing that I'm not doing enough.
Okay.
Same here.
Yeah. I loved so far. I have a great idea. How did she put that? I have an idea. You could have a check on the 7th and about asking, oh, here she is back.
Yeah. Totally real life right there, guys. Okay, so where I left off was new consultants. So that second phone call is host coaching, because they booked the 6 parties, and now we're going to talk about what we do with those parties. So for that part of it, I just walk them through what I do for my host coaching. Like, as soon as I book the party, what do I do? And then what do I do? And then, and I try and keep it simple. Like, your system should be simple enough that like you could train to it and kind of give them the resources, and they could go do that in like baby steps. And then the next step from that, the next training call is usually another day or 2 later, because I'm giving it to them in baby steps. And that one is how to run the virtual party. Like, okay, now that we have these parties booked, our hosts are coached, what do we do to set up the party? What are we posting? When are we posting? That kind of stuff. So I think that's super important to kind of walk through. But again, your system should be like not so crazy that they can't pick it up, relatively quickly if they're generally somewhat tech savvy and somewhat savvy. And then now they're ready to run their first party. So all of this kind of happens within like 5-6 days, and they're running their first party. It depends on the timing. Sometimes I will squish those two things into one call. Like, so for example, if I recruit someone on Wednesday and I want them to start their party the very next week, like I'm going to get them going quick and like maybe combine the host coaching and how to run the virtual party together so they can get the party started. And then the next call, I'll talk about the next stuff. So the next call, which is call number 4, which is kind of the last call in that series, is now that we have the party underway, like how do we get the results that we want to get from the party? And so we're looking for sales, we're looking for bookings, we're looking for recruit leads. How do we get those things? And so it's teaching them the system, like this is why we post what we post to get the sales. This is why we post what we post to get the bookings. This is why we post what we post to get the recruit leads. And then teaching them, how do you get bookings from your party? What's the system for that? How do you get recruit leads from your parties, which is just what I just talked about with you guys. So it's just basically a bird's eye view of these are the results we want and here's how we get them. And then I asked them to track their shows for the first month. So I say, track the sales, track the bookings, track the recruit leads, and then I do a 30-day call. So as their 30-day mark is approaching, I do a call and it's a review. Like, okay, how has your first month gone? What's gone well? What have you struggled with? What are some other areas that you feel like you need additional training on? And we talk through some of that stuff. And then sometimes I train on customer care at that 30-day mark because it's something that they can do, they can start to implement, and I don't want to front load it too heavy in their first week. So where Fast Track comes into this is on the very first call, I mentioned that I share the rewards they can get, which includes the Fast Track bonus. And I think what's important is how you share the bonus. It's not like talking about it for 10 minutes and explaining all the details of how they get it, because that's overwhelming. So it's more like, hey, another bonus you can get is this Fast Track bonus. It's a $2,000 cash bonus. It's broken down into 3 segments. The first $500 you can get when you promote to director between now and the end of August. Director's 5 people on your team, 5,000 in team sales. Like, that's basic, right? I don't say everyone needs to be active. You need 750 and this, that, and the other. I just like kind of give like just little bite-sized pieces. And later we get to the concrete details when it comes time for that, which is later on, like when they're working towards promoting, like getting all the ducks in a row, the things that they need. I talk about the next $500 you can get when you maintain directorship for the next 3 months after promoting, and then the next $1,000 is when someone on your team becomes a director in your first 6 months. So I don't say like the next $1,000 is when you become an advanced director, you need 12,000 in sales and you need a director on your team and they need to have 5 active and 5, like, blah, that's way too much. So I just say when someone on your team becomes a director in your first 6 months, you get the $1,000, because I just kind of gave a bird's eye view what director is. So they can understand that, like that's terms they can understand. And then again, later on when we're going for advanced, okay, we need 12,000 org sales, like you need to be green, they need to be green, then we get into the nitties. So, okay, so that's the first call. In addition to the other stuff we talked about in the first call. These calls are 30 minutes long, they're quick. And then the second call is host coaching. But before I go into host coaching, at the beginning of that, I will say, so we talked about a lot of stuff on the last call. We talked about a lot of rewards you can get. I want to revisit the Fast Track to Director bonus because it is the only cash bonus that you can earn. And I think it's really awesome and important. So just as a recap, here's what it is. And I kind of go through those 3 things again. And then I will say, now I'm going to be training you regardless. Right? Like I'm going to teach you how to run your parties, how to help your hosts. If you would like an extra $2,000, we can totally go for that. And I can kind of give you some little pointers along the way that will help gear you towards this extra $2,000. Is that something you would like? And I just ask, would you like some extra pointers along the way to work towards earning this extra $2,000? And almost everybody says yes. Like, who doesn't want an extra $2,000? I do have some people who are like, oh my gosh, like, I'm working 60 hours a week and I just want like the super basic things. Like I can't even think about that right now. But like 80% of the people are like, sure, like give me the pointers, or yeah, I would love that, or whatever. So now that tells me that I can give them pointers. Like I always train everyone the same. That's the thing. I train everyone the same, but the people that say, sure, give me pointers, I am like highlighting or like extra emphasizing the things. So like on my host coaching call, when I ask, hey, one of the great perks is you can get a $25 or $50 coupon off any of your starter kits. Have you ever thought about doing something pay-per-jet before? When I'm training new consultants to do that, I will say, you definitely want to make sure you ask this question. So I'm like kind of just like highlighting or emphasizing those things, but I'm teaching everyone the same thing. I'm just like giving extra emphasis. So, but what that does is then it tells me, okay, this person I can work with more closely. So once I'm done with those 4 calls, usually I have the consultant then like they're going in, they're already in the team page, but they're using the team page for help. They should be attending team meetings to get continuing education. Like I'm no longer their sole resource. Like they're moving into a new system. So my people move through systems. So the first system when they sign is the new consultant system. And then once they're done with that, those four calls, now they're moving into like the team, like go to the team meetings, use the team page. Like that's where they go. I am not their person they're messaging and calling all the time. And if they do, like I squash it and they're, I'm there for them, but they need to be using resources that are available for them so that I have time to do other things. So now, if the person says they want to go for fast track, they're going into a different system. And that system is my promoting director system. And so my next director round, I'm getting them into that director round. Or I'm doing weekly things with them to follow their show schedule and do show-based coaching with them. So you do the same for everyone. But how you then move them into the next system, what is that? So that's where that is helpful to have that so that you can put them on the track that they're kind of going on. So that is also like really fast overview of kind of the onboarding and how I'm advertising that fast track stuff. So I'm going to go through and answer some of the questions in the chat, and then I'll go through my other questions because I'm sure there'll be lots of things that just kind of tie into each other. So on my Facebook parties, I am using a posting service. I use Post My Party. I give new consultants an outline. Only new consultants get my outline. I do not make outlines for people every single month. Like that is their job as a consultant, and I don't have time for that. So I have one generic new consultant outline that I give everyone. So I'm not like I give all my new consultants. I'm not changing that all the time. It's just like, here's like the first basic template everybody's getting. And not everyone's going to sign up for Post My Party. So I encourage them to, because I'm wanting them to do 6 parties right away. So I encourage them to sign up for it. But if they don't, like I give it to them in Evernote or Google Doc or whatever, and then they just use that to copy paste from. So how do I find the time to do all of this? So it's all about systems, and it's all about being efficient. So this is a question that came up in the list as well. So I run anywhere from 6 to 12 virtual parties a week. Like it just depends on the week. So my system for my parties is, I send my host coaching tip in the morning to all my people, all my hosts, and then I have my posting service that's posting for me, and then I have a set time every day. It's usually in the evening where I'm checking my parties. So I never look at my notifications on Facebook. I always have a million, and I hate notifications, so I don't look at them. I probably miss things, and I'm like, whatever. So, but if you go notification by notification by notification, you're going to shoot yourself or want to shoot yourself. So what I do instead is I'm on my laptop at the end of the day. I open up the tab for one of my parties. I scroll through the whole party, and I respond to comments. And then I'm done with that. I have my next tab, my next party, and I scroll through and I respond to all the comments. So it's like one party at a time. I'm going through once a day. It probably takes 5 minutes a party. Depends on the party. Some parties have like 30 comments on a post and I want to shoot myself, but usually they're not all like that. So it's like 5 minutes a party maybe. And so I have set times that I do set things, and I rarely ever work from my phone. A lot of people do, but same thing, like I would pull up my party on my phone. I'm not going notification by notification, and I'm going through and responding to comments all in one go once a day. So as far as posting, some people say 6 times a day, some people say 16 times. I know for me, I hate getting a million notifications. And so I found that for me, a good spot is like 6 posts a day. So I do a couple posts in the morning, I do a couple posts around lunch, I do a couple posts in the evening, and I've done that for a long time, and I'm just still doing that same thing. I just know that I personally hate lots of notifications. I know like Steve teaches that you can batch post, where like if you post like 1 or 2 minutes apart and you post like 2 or 3 things, they only get 1 notification instead of a notification for every post. I haven't done that. I haven't seen a need because what I'm doing right now is working just fine. So I do 6 a day, but you can really do multiple. I mean, don't get wrapped up on like how many posts do I need to have. Like you can be successful with 6 posts, you can be successful with 16, somewhere in between. I probably wouldn't do less, just because how do you get enough information across? So I do phone call with my new consultants. I've really debated using Zoom, but I haven't, because for one, I love that with a phone call, like I can put my headphones in, I can take notes, and worst case, if I'm having to drive somewhere, like I have done the calls over driving, not my favorite, but I just have more flexibility that way. And I want them to realize that they can do the same thing. They can train other new consultants, and they might not be comfortable training over a video platform. And so I want to make it simple enough. And when I'm training a new consultant who just recruited their first person, they get my scripts, and it's like, here's what we talk about in call 1. If they're on a video chat and they're trying to read a script and try and take notes and do all this stuff, like it's hard. So I want it to be duplicatable in a way that it's easy for them to learn it and do it, and not be, maybe concerned that they can't because they can't do video chats or whatever. But you can be successful with either. That's just like where I have been in that from that. So I can certainly share an example of my weekly schedule, like how I kind of manage things. I have certain things I do every day. So I usually do my host calls Tuesday, Wednesdays. I usually send, most all of my messages to my guests like on Fridays. So I kind of do that. But I will say, like, when you get to a level like Marie, myself, like Patty, and others, and Nancy's on here and maybe some others execs I've missed, like I think people don't realize that you have help. Like most executives, not all, but a lot of them have assistants that help. Like today is the day my assistant comes. Like you might see her walk in my office. Like, and I refused to hire someone to help me for so long because I was like, I'm doing it myself. And then when I hired help, I was like, oh my gosh, why did I not do this sooner? Like, so I don't want you guys to look at people like us and be like, how do you do it all? There's no way I could do that. Guys, we have help. Like many people have house cleaners. I refuse to get a house cleaner, and I'm still refusing, and eventually I'll get a house cleaner and I'll think it was the best thing ever. And why didn't I do it sooner? But we have our tribe of people that help us that are, so you might not be able to do all these things, but we don't either. We have help. So once you kind of get to that point in your business, like it's so helpful to realize that it's okay to ask for help. And I want to be transparent that you guys don't think like I can do all this all on my own with a 2-year-old that interrupts me to watch TV shows. So yeah. Okay, let's see. I can share my system. What do you do to help make this level of success run smooth? Having your tribe of people help you. If it's your house cleaner, your assistant, whatever. Okay, and you guys are not at that point just yet, but there's things that you can do to run a smooth, efficient business so that you can do it yourself if you're doing a bunch of parties at once. My team meetings are virtual over Zoom. I do them once a month. Timing for training new consultants is something that Kelly's struggling with. You're calling everyone. I use Messenger. It takes a long time. I will share with you guys my call system. So like call 1, here's a script, call 2, here's a script, call 3, here's a script, like just what I would give to my first time recruiters that I am also training. Like I'll share that with you guys. I'll give it to Marie and then she can pass it out to whoever. Messenger for me would suck because I do feel like it would take forever. Like I would not get all the things out that I need to get in an efficient way. So that's why I still do phone calls, is because I can hammer out what I need to hammer out in a 5-minute host coaching call. It would take me hours to wait for responses back and forth on Messenger. I did train a director who was like refusing to do phone calls. I mean, she wasn't really, but like she was. And so she scheduled them in Messenger. And so instead of just going back and forth when they happened to look at messages, she scheduled a time. They both were on Messenger at that agreed upon time, and then she copy pasted the scripts. So she ran through the call and it took about the same amount of time or less, but it's because they both were committed to that time so they could chat back and forth immediately, which I was like, that's a great idea. So yeah, you can find ways like that to make it go faster. As far as creating all these systems myself, I have some systems I've created myself, but generally a lot of the things are things I've learned from other people, and then I morphed it to fit what I needed it to do. So like this call system was originally created by Stacey Itzel, Love Carpenter, Becky Ishii. I took it and I was like, I need this, but I need it for virtuals, and so I changed it to fit virtual parties. So that like original outline came from somewhere, but then I morphed it to fit what I needed. Recruiting systems, a lot of those some of those I created myself. Like a lot of the materials for recruiting that I use, I've created myself. But I read a lot, and I am always working on improving my skills, and I take those things I learn and I implement them, and I just make the systems better and better. So I think I had a gal the other day ask me, like, she was from a different company. She hosted a party for me. She sells Monet hair stuff. And she was like, I really want to excel in my business. Like, how do I do that? I know you've been successful. I'm like, I don't have time to train all these people, right? But I'm like, what's the easiest answer I can give her to like, to answer her question and not have her like keep asking me all these questions. But like to wrap it up for her, I was like, invest in yourself, personal development, find every training you can get your hands on, and don't ever stop doing those things, right? Like find the people that are having the success you want to have. Go find whatever trainings out there they put on the planet, read all the books you can read, listen to all the podcasts you can listen to, like, and you're always fine tuning. And so long as you don't stop, like you're going to be mentally stimulated in new ways all the time that will help you continue to make your business better. So yes, definitely. I do groups. It doesn't bother me when the posts get shuffled around. I'm just like, whatever. And here's the thing, guys. If you can automate something in your business, automate it. Like, why? Like, I want to pull my hair out when I have people that are like on my team still doing events, and they tell me I don't have time to balance all of this. I'm like, girl, you are manually posting to events. You can automate that. Like, that is money. Time is money. So you got to find ways that you can automate things to save you time, to save you money, because now you just freed up 10 minutes of your life every day that now you can invest in going and finding your next recruit, who is then going to submit $2,000 in their first month and make a bunch of money and help grow your team. They're your next director, blah, 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 right? Like, automate what you can automate. Even if there's certain things about it that you don't like it's saving you time, it's saving you money, and then you're investing that time in getting more money. So I love how Linda's like, get a house cleaner. I'm like on the verge. I'm almost there. Okay, so let's see here. Do you have set responses? Yes, Marie. So Marie's so cute. She's like, you probably use text replacement, right? And I'm like, Nope. I think I shared this earlier. I love to do things from my laptop. And so I don't use my phone a lot. I mean, I have text replacement for the things I do use it for, but I prefer my laptop. And here's also why. My laptop lives in my office. There was a point where I didn't have an office. My office was my master bedroom. I had a little table squished up. My closet had a portion with my boxes. Like, I've been there, right? If that's you, like, that was me. Now I have an office and I have my laptop, and it creates separation between business and personal life. If I'm doing a lot on my phone, then my business is here and could be here all the time, and I don't want it to be. And so because I'm working on my laptop, like, I have my business time, that's my business time, and my other time is with my family. And so I try and create that separation. So I do a lot from my laptop. And so I use Google Docs, and I have like all these things that I want to have that I'm like copy pasting. So like, I'll give you an example because I have it open on my screen right now. But so like Google Docs, like once they book a party, here's the words that I send them, and I just copy paste it. When I want to get them to rebook right after they host it, I tell them what they can all get. Like, boom, here's the words, I copy paste, I put it into Facebook message, and I go on. So you can see that like in my Google Docs, which I need to organize into files, which I'll probably have my assistant do because I have enough time. But like, if I have to host coach over Facebook message, I have my entire script listed out. Like, if I cannot get someone on the phone for host coaching, I copy paste straight from this. So, and here's something that I just did. I'm like, why did I not do this sooner? But common questions I get on my Q&A post, I typed out the answers. So instead of retyping the answer every time they ask me the same questions in my parties, I'm like, why am I not just typing out like a general thing and copy pasting answers? So like the stuff that you find yourself typing out all the time, like, dude, just like do this and then just copy paste. Okay. So, okay. I'm like, I have to scroll back up here now that I went out of that to look for questions. Okay. So, do you ever group your new consultant calls with more than one new person on the line? I have done this and I hated it because I felt like I could not give them the personal attention that they needed to really get to their goals. Because when one person would share their goal, the other person's goal would sometimes be affected by what that other person said. So like, there was a month where I recruited like 13 people, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm dying. I'm going to try this group call thing. And I hated it. And then March came around with the big new consultant special, and I tried something else and I hated it. Like, I keep going back to like the system that works. And I'm like, I know there's going to be times where I'm like loaded with phone calls, and it's a good problem to have. And I'll just keep using that system because it works and I really like it. So Patty says she has a remote person that does some things. How do you find your help in your office? So, one of my uplines is Stacy Turner. Some people know her. She gave me some, I think it was her. She gave me some advice that when she was hiring an assistant, she had someone tell her to, maybe look at past consultants or someone who could be a consultant, where you could like train them to be an assistant, but they could also like learn the business. So I happened to get really lucky. There's a gal who used to be a director on our team who no longer was the director. She was phasing out of the business. And I asked her and she said yes. And she happened to live 20 minutes away. And so she used to be a director. She knows so much and is like invaluable to me. And I'm like treating her like gold because I don't want her to go anywhere. So how do you deal with all the schedules, people not available at certain times for calls? Well, I was going to say it's my way or the highway. That sounds really bad. And that's not my mentality. But it is like, I'm not going to bend over backwards to like make a call at a time I don't want to make a call. So generally I can find something that works to get people on. And if I have to sacrifice one phone call on one evening, I'm fine with that. But I generally am, like if there's times I for sure will not work, like I will not work those times. But I know that I probably need to have one evening a week where I'm okay with doing calls. Like, so so I do have kind of that flexibility. I don't just like make it to where I never do calls at a certain time. Like I'll make an exception. Generally, like every week I'll do, this time I don't want to do, but because I need to be available for that. What do you have your people that work in your office do? She sets up my parties. She posts the answers in the parties. She sets them up on Facebook and posts my parties. She sets them up on Consultants Corner. She like lots of stuff. I feel like there's lots of questions. I'm gonna keep going. I hear you saying you have to jump in and learn new systems. We really need to take the time to learn new things, develop new systems, invest in yourself. Yes, all the things, Nancy. Post my party, $9.95 a month. Yeah, Nancy answered that. Perfect. Is Post my party worth it if you only do 5 to 8 parties per month? I mean, it depends, because you can use Facebook Scheduler, but even if you're only doing 5 to 8 parties per month, like that's still a good chunk of parties. Like I would say it's worth it. Like, are you going to make that $10 that it cost back by investing in it? And I would say yes. Like, you're going to invest $10 a month. You're going to have extra time, lots of time, and you could easily put that extra time into making more than $10. So I would say it's worth it. Thank you, Nancy, for the free trial. How many calls do you make with host daily? I do 1 phone call with host. It's a week before their party. It's 5 to 10 minutes long, and that's the only phone call I do with my host. Okay, so Cint Share is another great option, does something really, they do the same things as Post My Party. So are you willing to adjust your call times to allow for coaching hosts or consultants who live in other time zones? Yes, so I have everyone in every time zone you can think of, and so I am prepared and I know that I'm gonna be making calls. I probably have every state's time zone memorized by this point, which is crazy. Okay, so I'm gonna make sure I go through the questions that were originally asked. How many shows do you hold a week? I answered that. Do you run them 1 hour multi-day? I do multi-day parties. I run my parties Monday through Friday, and I have the host do invitations Saturday, Sunday. So like, for example, so this Saturday, my host's going to invite her friends. Sunday, she's going to work on getting more people in the party. We start Monday, and then we close on Friday. So let's see. How, when, and what you say to grow such an amazing team? So gosh, that's like a loaded question. It's really about getting the new consultants to begin with, right? Like that's how you're building your team, and having new consultants come in regularly all the time, because without that flow of new consultants, like you'll go stagnant, your team will go stagnant, you will too. Like the energy that comes from a new consultant is massive, like so helpful. So as a director, like I'm always training my team like 2 recruits minimum every single month. Like that is like no, like you can't budge on that. Like, and you don't have to have that, but if you average 2, like go back and look at the last 12 months, have you been averaging 2 or more? Like maybe some months you have 5 and some months you have 1, like great, you're still averaging that 2 per month. That's crucial. And then you have your consultants, your team, and then you're sharing vision. Like what's the vision? Where are you guys going with your team? What are your goals? Like that is a whole other training that I could talk about forever. Okay. Do you recruit more hosts or guests? I recruit more hosts for sure. I would say like 60-65% of my recruits are my hosts, because I have that time to build a relationship with them. And I know that also if I can just get them to book a party, I have more opportunities to talk with them about joining my team. So let's see, systems, yes. I have words I use. I do copy paste. I'm sure you have a couple of posts you specifically generate interest during your team. Would you mind sharing those posts? I think we talked about that. If no one comments on those posts, then it goes back to host coaching. Like you don't have enough people in your party. There's not enough engagement on the posts. And then that goes back to host coaching. How do you get the people in the party? How do you get the engagement? So yeah, I mean, I have parties where like they're duds and the host doesn't do anything. Like those parties, I have them, we all have them. So, but generally, like if you're doing the right things and your host is engaged, you'll get that. You'll get what you need out of it. So what do you address in the first conversation once you get someone that shows interest? I think we talked about that, like asking the questions, what intrigues them or interests them about doing Pampered Chef, asking those questions in that conversation. Do you do your new consultants launch parties? So if a consultant is a host and they sign off of their party, then there's no need for a launch party, and they just did a party with me. So in that case, we don't do a launch party. But for a guest, if I sign a guest and they've never hosted a party with me, I generally do their launch party because I want to treat them like a host. I want them to learn what I'm doing with my hosts, and then they see that and they get, that's their launch party, but I'm treating them like they're my host and they feel that. I do have them engage way more in their party as far as like I want them posting more, because I want their guests to see that they're engaged and they're posting, and it's not just me doing all the posts. So I do give them some extra things to post. What are the coaching tools you give your new consultant to make sure they generate enough bookings to get them to qualify and more in their first 3 weeks? So that's where it goes back to having them do their 6 parties. And that call system, which I'll share with you guys. And that's the onboarding system I use. How do you encourage and develop so many fast track directors? So that goes back to the system. So the system of getting the new consultants through the new consultant system. When they say yes, now they're going into the developing director system. And so I do director round every single month. So I do something that's also called a mastermind group. So the director bound is a 4-week director bound, and that is weekly calls for 4 weeks. I run them every month, and I like doing them 4 weeks because then I can do a new one every single month. And I'm like, new people are going through that system all the time. And then this mastermind thing is something that I created with a friend, with another exec, and basically it would take the cream of the crop out of the director round, and they would go into the mastermind. They had to have 2 people on their team to be able to go into the mastermind group, and the mastermind group is focused on promoting that month. So that's also a series of 4 calls, and those calls are geared on how do you promote this month? What do you need to do to promote this month? So I advertise to the director round people, hey, are you enjoying this training? When you have 2 new consultants join you, by the end of this training, you can get invited to like the 201, right? Like this is like the 101. We're doing the 201, the mastermind group next month. When you graduate out of this with 2 people, like, oh my gosh, you're going to get invited to this exclusive mastermind training. So the director round calls are 30 minutes. They're on Zoom. I do them Saturday mornings, bright and early, and then I go right into the mastermind call right after that. So I basically have like an hour in the morning that I'm doing these calls. So I have my director bound group every month. I have my mastermind group every month, and so they're working through the system, right? They're getting the director bound, that's a system, and then they graduate out of that and they go into the next system, which is mastermind. So I do have some very loose examples of what I do for those calls that I can share, just because I'm not a person where I'm like, I have a written out agenda for everything. Like even this call today, I'm like, I know what I'm going to talk about, and I just talk. Like I don't type things out. Like I can just talk off the cuff and just address the things. So I do a lot of that. I have like bullet points, like here's what I'm going to talk about. And so it's not scripted, but I can share like those bullet points and things with you. And then the original set of questions that were sent, I had them up, and then somehow with screen sharing, they like got pulled away. So I'm going to pull it back up here really quick on my phone, just make sure I'm answering all the questions. So if I do so many parties at once, how much time does it take for me to follow up and respond? I think I answered that. And I do it in the evenings. There are certain days I do certain things, like I send all my messages on Friday, like my recruit messages, my booking messages. I have like a day of the week I do that. I don't take notes on what people say. I know a lot of consultants do, like they'll have an Evernote, they have the guest name, and like they take notes on the person. Like I don't have time for that. When you're running like 12 virtual parties a week, who has time for that? So I just scroll, like Friday when I'm getting ready to send my messages, I scroll through the party and I'm like, okay, who was awesome? Who shared recipes? Who did this? And I do that like as I'm sending out my messages, so that I'm not having to like spend all this time taking notes or something. So I do friend everybody. My party starts Monday. I do friend requests on Wednesday because it gives them 2 days to get to know me, so they're more likely to accept my request. And then when I send messages out on Friday, they likely have accepted my request by then because it's 2 days later. And so they're more likely to engage with my message. All right. I think, let's see. Does she try to friend everyone or have them respond to a post by messaging her so she can message them throughout the party to build a relationship? I don't have anyone like send me messages except when they win a prize. If they win a prize, I say, hey, message me your address. But aside from that, I don't do like watch the video and send me the word at the end of the video and message. Like, those kinds of things, I haven't done any of that. All right. So what level were you when you decided to get an assistant? I was in promotion for senior exec. Like she started like right when that was kind of all happening. So I didn't get it right away when we hit exec. It was just like, okay, a little bit later on. All right, what else, guys?
I just have it up on the board. That was the big question at the beginning about, I think you may have answered some of this, but.
Yeah, that was the one I just went through.
Okay.
Like at the end, I pulled the questions up on my phone. I think I answered most of them. But there was a question in the chat. Linda was saying that she has very little commenting on the recruiting post. So I want you guys to think about the recruiting post is not just one post. Like it's a culmination of creating that know, like, and trust factor, doing that, establishing a relationship, sharing more about you, like your hobbies, your interests, like passions, then sharing your story. So I can do screen share here. Sharing your story so people can see like a little more about your story, and then doing the commission check game, and then the Q&A. Like if you are getting little to no comments, you're not creating enough desire. So dissect that. Like, how are you creating desire? How can you change that so that you are starting to get comments? Because the good news is you can pinpoint where the breakdown's happening, and then you can say, okay, here, I need to figure out how to fix this. What are some things I can do to go fix it? And some of those things I just shared. So let me do like a really quick screen share. So this post I do it towards the beginning of my parties. It's a little bit about me. I have pictures of me and my kids. This is creating know, like, and trust, right? Like people want to get to know us. They want to see us. And so I was going to see if I could find my story post. This is like the guess the commission check game. I don't know. These are my parties this week. I honestly don't even know if that has already posted yet. So yeah, I don't think it has, but so that's not super helpful, but at least you can see like, that, if you're not getting that, then you need to work on creating the desire part because it's not there enough. Maybe it's there a little bit, but it's not enough. If someone does not promote in the mastermind month, do you keep them in director bound? Nope. Because now you might be in a different situation, but I have so many people and I limit the director bound and the mastermind to 5 people for me. I do it with a sister director. So you could find someone to partner with. I have 5 people. The sister director has 5 people. So it's limited to 10. So I only get 5. And I tell them like, this is exclusive. I only get to invite 5 people and I picked you. Like, it's not open to everyone and their mom. So I don't keep them in that. If they don't promote out of the mastermind, like I still work with them, but there's something going on there that's preventing them from promoting. So maybe it's their show schedule is not strong enough. Maybe they have like a confidence and belief issue. But here's the thing, and I don't want this to sound bad. Our time is so limited. Like, if they've gone through all the systems and the system works, if they work the system and they're still not promoting, I need to invest my time in the next person. Like they were given the resources, they were given the tools, the system works, and it's still not happening. However, it doesn't mean that you don't work with them, because you'll have consultants that will go through the system so long as they're showing progress and they're getting closer to that goal, you keep working with them. But it doesn't mean that you take the place of a new person that could be in there and put that person back in there. No, you keep working with them and they'll get there when they do, or they won't get there, but you still need to be refreshing that with the new consultants that are coming in. All right. I mean, I could keep talking. I'm sure more questions could keep coming, but I'm also sure I'm probably over time.
Well, you have been just amazing, and we are recording this. So Kristin, I think this is going to be a wonderful training, not only for both of our organizations. I will definitely send you the Zoom recording so you can use it with your organization as well.
Thank you.
Oh, you are welcome. Thank you so much. You know, it makes me teary-eyed that people are so willing to share. And when I say Pampered Chef is a slice of heaven here on earth, that, you know, I'm sure many of you have heard this and me share the story about hell is a bunch of people very skinny, starving around a table, and the table is loaded as like a Thanksgiving buffet. And people have spoons or forks that are too long, so when they go get the food, they can't put it in their mouth. And so they're sitting around a table of food and they're starving. And heaven is the same table with the same food, the same forks and knives, but the people are feeding each other. And when people like you share their knowledge with the rest of us, it raises all of us and creates this Pampered Chef that is not a real job, it's an unreal job. And people like me are learning new things every day, and I so appreciate your willingness to share. So thank you.
Yes, of course. I love that story. Oh, that's so good. Marie, you're so good with stories. I'm like, I need to use stories more. I love it.
It is true. Kristin, thank you for spending time with me in Arizona and spending time with our teams here today. So this is definitely one that's going to be replayed a bunch of times. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Have a great day, you guys.
Thank you. Take care, and I will officially press stop recording.